Steffen. Oh, sorry, with Sean Steffen. Thank you.
So I'll be talking about the use of floral resources and banker plants in your IPM strategies and why it's an important consideration when developing your strategies for your farm. So I'm assuming that everyone has a vague understanding of what a banker plant is, otherwise the definition is there for you. So these resources that these banker plants provide can include nectar, pollen, or habitat. The role of floral resources in IPM that I've found through my research is that it increased the probability of your beneficial insect releases establishment in your cropping systems. It also enhanced the longevity and the fecundity, so insects lived longer and they laid more eggs, and it improved reproduction. These are some examples of floral resources and cropping systems and the kind of resource that they provide for your beneficial insects. Basically, the more floral resources you can incorporate into your system, the more variety, the more improved nutritional resources are available to your beneficial insects. But not all floral resources are equal. Not all flowering plants may provide the adequate resources for predatory or your beneficial insects' needs. Some plants are better at providing pollen and some plants are better at providing nectar to suit the specific insects. This is an example of the nectary exposure on several different floral resource types. The dark grey area represents the nectaries and the different exposure levels. So as you can see, most parasitic wasps prefer exposed nectaries, generally from your Euphorbiaceae types. And then we've got the buckwheat, Alyssium, marjoram, and your composite flowers, which is your daisies. In the research that I've undertaken, lacewings and hoverflies have displayed increased fecundity when provided floral resources. So nectar and pollen is both vital for them. Parasitic wasps showed increased longevity in cropping systems when they were provided the right floral resource systems, so those plant species that have exposed nectaries. Parasitic wasp, ladybug species and spiders, so they're your predators. In diverse floral corridors, there was higher populations and longevity. I think that mostly the contributing factor would be attractive volatiles and the microclimate or habitat that they provide for those species. Persimilis and aureus displayed higher egg laying when they were provided the pollen resources required. So I was first introduced to the concept of floral resources when I was studying at UNE and the New England dieback. So you had a thriving bushland ecosystem there, and over time it was cleared for pastoral expansion. Unfortunately, this clearing impacted a key species there, the blue flower wasp. The clearing removed key floral resource species, the blackthorn and the kunzia, which was a nectar resource. This led to a population decline, which caused the blue flower wasp to disappear from the ecosystem there, which is a parasitic wasp for the scarab beetle or the Christmas beetle. The Christmas beetle, not having anything there to control its population, boomed unchecked and defoliated the few remaining eucalyptus trees that were left, destroying this significant ecosystem. This actually led to economic losses for a lot of the agricultural farms there because they lost their shelter species for the agricultural systems. When the people implemented restorative practices and planted more forestry back in, either corridors, belts, or isolating paddock systems, the New England dieback improved in those key areas. So this is an indication of what happens when you get one extreme versus the other. It's a cautionary tale on the importance of that biodiversity, even in agricultural systems, and the impact that it has on your biodiversity and ecosystems. The most common question that I get is, what floral resource should I use in my cropping system? The truth is I can't give you a straight answer, and that's actually a really good thing. The reality is that there's no one size fits all for your farming systems. Every farm is unique. Your crops, your pests, your management systems are all different from your neighbours or even the next state or town over. So what works for one farm might not necessarily work for another. It requires a holistic approach. identifying your pests, knowing your beneficial insects, understanding their needs. So do they need nectar, do they need pollen, or do they need habitat, or do they need that pest species as part of their life cycle? Assessing your farm's layout and considering your management practices. What is going to fit in for you and for your systems so that it's coherent and it supplements your system, not impedes it. I hope this has highlighted how important floral resources are and that they are a very powerful tool in your IPM strategies, that they shows that they can reduce chemical pesticide reliance, enhance the effectiveness of your biological control agents in your integrated pest management strategies. Thank you.
So we have got a lot of time for questions.
Yes,
for this
very
one,
quick.
If anyone's got questions. I've got a question. And I did allude to it before. So in WA we are interested in what might help the Frankie thrive and what's helping it when we don't have flowers on our plants. I did hear that there's something you can do to, like you could grab a flower and be able to tell what insects have visited that. Is that true?
Yes, I did see some recent research at another conference that I was at, and they were genetically testing the insect material and using that genetic profiling to identify the various insect species that were visiting to increase that insect count process. Unfortunately, I can't remember the speaker. I did note it down. I don't have my notes with me, but yes, I have definitely seen that research in action.
And vice versa, you can get the insect and then work out what plants it's visiting?
I don't know if you can do that one yet. I've only heard of them testing the flowers for the genetic material of the insects and then identifying there through genetic profiling.
Did anyone else have any questions? Yep.
So I haven't heard of E4BAC being used before. Is there a specific species that you know has been used and demonstrated to be effective for conservation, biological control, or bank compliance?
That's a good question. So in my research trials, we were just working with spurges, like petty spurge, something that was prolific in a lot of the interrows and in the spillways in agricultural operations, both in field and in protected cropping and through the tunnels.
Yep. It's kind of an argument for the importance of weeds on farms in some ways.
In some ways, yeah, I think that there can be a place for them, but it has to fit with your management practices.
What sort of flower densities do we need per
It-
hectare?
yeah,
Is
it-
there a minimum, maximum?
It depends on the beneficial insects you're trying to attract. So, for example, research that I did with ladybugs in field cropping, ladybugs were lazy and they wouldn't go more than 50 metres from the floral corridors. And we were working with the silly blue ladybugs and your conventional ladybug species. But it depends on your beneficial insects, so you have to identify their needs. Yeah.
It possibly depends on the pest for the species, but is there a certain minimum area proportional, let's say a hectare of orchard? Is there a minimum area you need in terms of square metres of flowers for whatever beneficial?
Yeah, you're right. It does depend on the pest and the beneficial insect that you're trying to address. I think that having some's better than none, definitely, and it's whatever you can accommodate. You're definitely going to see a positive impact regardless of what decision that you make.
Trying to see if there's any more questions. Any more questions out there? No? Excellent.
Cool.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, and we hope you make it flight. Thank you, Steffen.
Yes.